Welcome to the Athena Wellness Podcast, the show that invites you to take a seat around the community fire and listen to stories that inspire. I'm your host, Kathy Robinson, author, coach, and founder of Athena Wellness, a company that's dedicated to supporting you on your journey to live more wholeheartedly. Today's episode is brought to you by the Athena Wellness Academy, your resource for wholehearted living. The Academy's featured offering is an online course called From Type A to Type B, How to Mindfully Descend the Corporate Ladder and Invite What's Next. This course is perfect for you if you're contemplating or navigating a professional transition, and it's available as a self-study or with a small cohort of students facilitated by me, Kathy Robinson. To learn more, I invite you to go to athenawellnessacademy.teachable.com or click on the link in the show notes. Hello and welcome. Thanks so much for joining me for this shortened Wellness Wednesday episode, a little midweek boost to help keep your warrior vibe high. Today I'm joined once again by sales and marketing executive turned creator and podcast host, Natalie Viglione. During this discussion, Natalie shares some advice for those who are looking to transition to a new career and life, but are unsure how to begin. And now on to the show. I hope you find this conversation insightful. Once again, I'm joined by entrepreneur and podcaster Natalie Viglione. Welcome back, Natalie.
Thanks, Kathy.
So, you were mentioning what it was like to be in corporate and thinking about leaving, not quite ready to pull the trigger. And I know a lot of our listeners are kind of in that space. So what advice would you offer to those listeners who are thinking about it, but not really sure what the next steps are?
Yeah, that's a very juicy spot to be in. There's something there and it just can't quite formulate words around it. I think for me, the most powerful place to start is this concept of know thyself. This ancient truth really begins in a space where if you drew a map, and I call this the innate gifts map. If you drew a map of all the amazing knowledge, wisdom, natural innate gifts that you've had since the day we were born, what kind of picture would that draw? For example, if there were some amazing abilities that you had as a kid that you just never really talk about, but those can play into the quote unquote, what's next. So you go from like your childhood, move into your teens, move into your, early career. Maybe that's college for some of us, if you work during college. And then as you gained experience in the career, so it doesn't really matter where you're at right now. It's about really fine tuning your ability to discern what natural gifts that you have that come through so well. Because if you write this down and if you see it, now I'm a nerd, I like Excel. So I did the Excel route, but you could take a big, whiteboard, whatever, and start mapping out all these things. You'll be able to really start seeing very clearly what is possible for you to kind of bring together. And potentially this is kind of a foundation of how you start maybe a business, or you start to really discern what are the things that you really like to do that you are so good at. And the rest you're like, why am I doing this? So you get really clear on what a good pathway can actually be.
I love this reverse engineering because so many times what stopped me for many years is like, you're told that it's a purpose or a calling and it seems so big and you can feel something, but it's elusive. Like it's not tangible. And so it keeps you in place. And it wasn't until after I left that when I looked back, I saw all of the things, both from a professional standpoint, like everything that I learned in the business world is completely serving me now as an entrepreneur, right? You never make that leap. I think the myth is that before you can leave, this path has to be revealed to you. And that is not the way it works. You create it as you go along. And even the things that both you and I are doing years into this entrepreneurial thing, there's no way we could have, like, a podcast was not on my business plan, when I was still in the corporate world. So can you speak to that a little bit, of by doing this type of inventory, how you might be able to create these combinations that are unique, that express you, but also unique offerings in the world?
Yes. Yeah. The path does not have to be laid out at all. In fact, I would dare say it's not possible. Because again, like you mentioned, it stops you because you're like, well, I don't know what it is yet. So you just kind of sit there in this vortex, right? And it can get quite depleting in that vortex because you think something's wrong with you because you don't know what you're supposed to do because you don't like where you're at. And it's just this whole like crazy head game. As you mentioned, there's no way we know what's possible when we can't even see possibilities in ourselves. But what I do know is that, so this whole healer aspect of who I am and what is a true story for me in terms of how I'm bringing more into the world, like the next evolution of my quote unquote add-on to a business, is that when I was little, I would actually, when we played, because I wanted to be a doctor, a vet, and a part-time fairy. The part-time fairy, by the way, I already have that covered, so we're good there. But the doctor, what I was talking about was a healer, because when I played doctor with people, I would lay my hands on people. I was healing with my hands. So there's clearly something innate in me that says that's how you heal, which is energy work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I did this process, I was like, oh, wow. I knew when I was little exactly what I needed to be. But I poo-pooed that, or I didn't listen to it. I didn't look back at it. But that story, and I bet you a lot of us have these weird stories or things that you've said, and your parents were like, I don't know what she's saying. She's crazy, or, who knows what happened. But those little things suppress these memories. So really what this process does is it allows you to bring things up that may have been suppressed by this outside realm telling you what you should be and shouldn't be.
Yeah. I was a girl in the 70s who wanted to be a DJ. So again, back to the microphone.
Right. Exactly.
And with that, I would maybe we can end, since we're on the topic of healing, of what might be something simple that somebody could do while they're still running these two engines, knowing that there will be the day when they can say, I quit, but they're not quite there yet. How do they keep themselves intact to the best they can while they're going through that process?
Yes. Listen to yourself. And anytime you start to maneuver away from what you know to be true, just stop the engine, because you know your truth. You have that innate gift to know exactly what is right. And no one else on this planet can tell you what is right. And also forget sometimes when you're dreaming, when you're doing the work to really figure things out, pretend that no one else exists, because you need to be at the top of this priority list as to what's right for you. Because then you don't get stuck in the excuse engine vortex, because that's a whole other thing as well. So that will keep you at least fundamentally true to yourself. And then you can really understand exactly the steps that you need to take versus what someone over here might be saying you need to do. Mm-hmm. I promise you, they have no clue.
It's a beautiful practice. And it is a practice.
It is.
Why not start now?
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, again, I thank you so much, Natalie, for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I know there are many ways you can spend your time. Thank you for choosing to spend it with me. Until our paths cross again, be kind to yourself and show your warrior spirit some love. If you know anyone who could benefit from today's episode, please pass it on. And many thanks for supporting the show by subscribing and leaving a review. It means a lot, and it helps others find their way to our circle. If you'd like to access the show notes, have a question you'd like addressed on a future episode, or would like a transcript of this episode, visit www.athenawellness.com/podcast. Until next time, be well.